Elektra Assassin came out kind of as an idea. It was a secondary idea. The main thing Frank and I were working on was Love and War with Daredevil. And Elektra Assassin was going to be this 8-issue series we were going to do just to, just to put, food on the table. It's going to be just something we're going to be doing, And I was working on both of them simultaneously, both projects. And I found that the big deal had a little bit more riding on it psychologically. Elektra was just the bread and butter job. That's the way we viewed it. And it was fun. It was just simply fun. It was like nothing, no expectations of it. We would just bounce stuff back and forth. I mean, we would just get together and we would be rolling on the floor. And we got to the point where we almost expected each other. We wanted each other to push it. And so the story just grew organically. Frank would see something I would draw, he'd write again, and then I'd read it, and I'd say, well, I want to change this, and do a little bit more to it. I mean, Frank would write a script, but he threw things at me in terms of the script, but all the choices in terms of what I was going to show, and how I'd show it, and the way I'd want to show it, was mine, my choice. And when I would go back and show him the artwork, and when I would do it, I really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I would look at a piece of artwork that I had done, because how I'd worked on Elektra was at my studio. I had a studio in the city in New York, and I'd spend pretty much the whole day just going to bookstores and museums and taking photographs. I'd get to the studio at like 4 or 5 in the afternoon and eat, and then sit down, and literally like within 2 hours, I'd just vomit all this stuff out on the board. And it was like it had been building up and boiling the whole day. And then it would be done. I'd be done with it. I'd be sweating and, feeling just, like, what did I do? I mean, I'd look at a piece of artwork and I couldn't tell anything about it. I didn't know what I was looking at. It was just this period of process. It was really not about the result. It was like the most pure way of producing something. Because I think that there's a thing I think artistically that people go through when they really start to worry about the end result. That is really the antithesis of the way that things actually should. When I say should, there was should, it's shoulding all over myself here, but it's like the way of doing something when you're really in the groove, in the zone. You're really all about process. You're thinking about it or not thinking about it. You're in that Zen place of you've forgotten it. You're just being it, and making choices, correcting, and you're not in a place of, and I certainly for myself, I'm not in a place of any kind of radical judgment of negativity. It's not like, this is a piece of crap. The work and I are having a dialogue, and I'm not thinking about the end. I'm not thinking about the finish. I treasure that. And I think that too many times when pieces go awry, it's when I'm thinking about the end result. I know I want it to look like this when it's done. So the challenge is to keep the process new, and let whatever the work is saying to me, let the dialogue continue. But as I was doing that with Frank, we would just go back and forth. They didn't have any previous experience with painted comics. I think Elektra Assassin, or my painted stuff, was the first one. There may have been others that came out sort of around the same time or like slightly after, but I believe Elektra Assassin was the first painted comic with a character that could be considered mainstream or a hero, a superhero type character. Before that, it hadn't been done. So I think that's partly what got it the attention, partly because it was also an epic comic, because we did have some freedom to push things. We didn't have to be so beholden to continuity. We didn't have to remain faithful to any continuity whatsoever. We could do what we wanted to, and that included visually, storytelling-wise, medium. So since I wasn't being paid all of this like highfalutin money that they had to sort of recoup their investment, it was like, okay, well, you pay me $12 a page for coloring. It's like, I'll do it for this much in exchange for freedom. Basically freedom to do whatever I want. Garrett was the illustrated guy. Garrett was the drawn guy, the painted guy. There was Elektra, who was painted, but also was like this emotionally distant. She was a force, that was really not so much a person. And Ken Wind, I just felt like I didn't want him to be real, and by painting that way. So when I was doing him, I really felt that Ken Wind was a front. He was a facade for evil, And I thought that his face should be a little bit off. Like the smile should not work. And I was thinking about the Joker, and I felt that painting him, it would lose that. It would be dependent upon my ability to draw a weird smile and be consistent with it. And I felt that drawing him gave him a level of reality, of flesh and blood, that Garrett was the only one I felt who should have that. So I started to play around with the Xeroxes after I pasted up some of these images and just messed around with lightness and darkness and the contrast, till I finally found an image that looked appropriately insipid, and just put it on the character. And I just saw, if at some point I just went, it's like no matter what way he's turning or how his head, and it was like a light went on. It was like, he's gonna have the same damn head through the whole story. Over the years, there have been plenty of publishers or people who've called up and asked me to do things, or just things I've heard, from different companies that start up that are no longer around, or different editors, where they talk about, we want to be cutting edge. We want to do something really new. I cringe when I hear that, because being called the innovator, that became as much of an albatross as being cutting edge or doing something, brilliant. Because I never, again, when Elektra Assassin got the response, got that really big response from the media, the fans, there was no response for like a couple weeks. We thought we're going to get some kind of big response as well from the readers and from from our peers. It was like there was silence. It was like this crickets, just nothing. And Frank and I just said, well, I guess we failed, It's like, and after what had happened was it was so different that people didn't know what to make of it. It was almost like it had to be digested a bit. And so something that really is truly new, true to itself, and cutting edge and innovative, it has to be processed as such. If it's new and innovative, it's not like it's like nothing you've seen before. So you may not know what to think of it. So the idea of having something be cutting edge, or being told that to make it, it's like saying, well, I'm going to sit down today, and when I sit down at an easel and I try to paint or draw a comic or draw something, I don't ever sit down and say I'm going to do a masterpiece today, because the artwork will kick my ass up and down the street. I'll show you what you think, something, punk. The work has a way of just showing me my level of ignorance. Continually.